I never thought a single sentence could destroy 12 years of marriage. But that morning, as sunlight came through the kitchen window, everything I believed in, everything I trusted, collapsed. I still remember the way he looked at me. Cold, distant, like a stranger who happened to live in my house. He didn't shout. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even blink. He just said it. Leave. You're useless now. For a moment, I thought I misheard him. Maybe he was joking. Maybe this was stress talking. Maybe the sleepless nights and constant arguments were finally getting to him. But then he moved closer, put his hands on the table, and repeated, "You heard me. Pack your stuff. I don't need you anymore. I'm rich now." My heart stopped. Rich. What was he talking about? And then it hit me, his father. The inheritance. The money he'd been waiting for since the day we met. His father never liked me. That part wasn't a secret. When we got married, he didn't even show up at the wedding. He always said his son deserved more. More beauty. More money. More status. More everything. And yet, somehow, we built a life together anyway. Or at least I thought we did. But that morning, when my husband finally received the inheritance he had been dreaming about for years, his entire personality changed within seconds. His voice lost its warmth. His eyes lost their softness. His touch, once gentle, turned into indifference. It felt like someone had flipped a switch inside him. I stood there frozen, my hands shaking, my mouth dry. "Why?" I whispered. "Why are you doing this?" He shrugged. A tiny, satisfied smirk appeared on his face. "Because now I can have the life I actually want. Better house. Better wife. Better everything." My stomach twisted. Better wife. Before I could say another word, he threw a black suitcase on the floor and said, "Take whatever fits inside. You have 20 minutes. 20 minutes, after 12 years together." My legs felt weak. My chest tightened and every breath hurt. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the realization that he had probably been waiting for this moment. Waiting for the money. So he could get rid of me. That morning everything went quiet. My thoughts, my hopes, my dreams. Even the clock on the wall sounded different, ticking slower, heavier, as if it too felt the weight of his words. I didn't know it yet. But this was just the beginning. The betrayal. The humiliation. The discoveries that would follow. They were far darker than the words he threw at me that morning. And the revenge he forced me to plan. That would change everything. People often say that you only truly know someone when you see them under pressure, or temptation. Looking back now, I realize my husband had been preparing to hurt me long before the inheritance ever arrived. I just never noticed the signs. Our story had a sweet beginning. We met in a tiny seaside cafe. I was a waitress, saving money to finish college, and he was a regular customer who always ordered the same thing. Black coffee, 2 sugars, no milk. He used to sit near the window, watching the waves as if he was waiting for something bigger to come into his life. One day he looked at me and said, "You make this place brighter." I believed him. For years I supported him through everything. Lost jobs, bills we couldn't pay, late-night worries, dreams that kept failing before they even started. I worked double shifts, skipped vacations, cooked meals from almost nothing, and kept our home together with love and patience. And he used to say things like, "You're my rock. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." I held on to those words like they were gold. But now, after everything that happened, I can see the truth. I was never a partner to him. I was a placeholder. Stand-in. A temporary solution until he became the man he wanted to be. His father, wealthy, arrogant, judgmental, always looked at me like I didn't belong next to his son. To him, love mattered less than status. My husband used to defend me, but recently I noticed he stopped trying. He changed slowly, subtly. The gym memberships, the expensive suits, the sudden interest in fancy restaurants, the late meetings that felt longer than they should, the new colognes I didn't recognize, the cold looks whenever I talked about our future. First I blamed stress. then work, then myself. I never imagined the real reason behind his distance. He wasn't pulling away. He was preparing for a life without me. And still, a part of me kept hoping he would reassure me, tell me I was imagining things. But he didn't. The morning he received the inheritance, everything finally made sense. The way he walked, the way he talked, the confidence, almost arrogance, in his voice. That wasn't the man I married. Or maybe, that was who he was all along. Maybe the version of him I loved existed only because he didn't have money yet. Maybe poverty had made him humble, compassionate, human. But wealth turned him into a stranger. And as I packed my clothes into the suitcase he threw at me, shaking helplessly, I realized something painful. I had given him everything: time, loyalty, love, comfort. And he had been waiting for the perfect moment to throw me away. But that was his biggest mistake. Because people like me, the ones who survive hardship, betrayal and heartbreak, we don't break, we rise. And he was about to learn that. When the front door slammed behind me, it wasn't just the sound of wood meeting metal. It was the sound of a life ending. I stood outside on the porch, staring at the suitcase in my hand, at the home I had helped build, at the man who now stood inside with no guilt, no hesitation, no regret. He didn't even look back through the window. 12 years. Erased like pencil on paper. I walked away slowly, my chest burning with humiliation. The neighbors peeked through their curtains, whispering. They didn't know what happened, but they didn't need to. My tears, my shaking hands, my broken voice said enough. Felt small, invisible, forgotten. But life has a strange way of revealing truths when you're at your lowest. 3 days later, I learned something that made my heartbreak turn into fire. I went back to the house, not to talk to him, but to gather the rest of my belongings. The boxes of memories, the things I left behind in shock. I thought he wouldn't care. I thought he'd just hand them to me coldly and send me away again. I was wrong. When I arrived, he wasn't home. The house was locked. But the neighbor across the street, Mrs. Halloway, walked over quietly. "You should know," she whispered. "You're not the first woman he's done this to." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, looked around and leaned closer. "He's been seeing someone for months. A younger woman. Blonde. Drives a silver car. She's been visiting when you're at work." The ground beneath me felt like it moved. "He what?" asked, my voice choking. Mrs. Halloway sighed. "I never wanted to get involved. But after what he did to you, I can't stay quiet." Suddenly everything made sense. The late nights, the new clothes, the expensive colognes, the sudden distance. He didn't grow cold because of money. He grew cold because he already replaced me. And the inheritance gave him the excuse he needed to make the switch official. I felt my hands curl into fists. Not from violence, but from something stronger, clarity. For the first time since he threw me out, the numbness inside me began to fade. He betrayed me. Deeply. But that wasn't the end. Later that same day, as I sat alone in a cheap motel room, something unexpected happened. His lawyer called me. "Your husband," the man said politely, "has filed preliminary separation documents. However, before anything is finalized, we need to discuss the assets acquired during your marriage." Assets? Which assets? We barely had anything before the inheritance. Then he said something that made my heartbeat slow. "The inheritance is not premarital property. It is legally shared unless otherwise specified in the will." Spark lit inside me. Small, but powerful. So he kicked me out to keep everything. He wanted me gone, broken, humiliated. But the law said otherwise. For the first time since the nightmare began, I breathed a little easier. He thought he had won. But he didn't know the storm that was coming. I didn't plan to see her. Not at first. But life has a cruel way of putting people exactly where they need to be. Especially when the truth is waiting. Happened 2 weeks after he threw me out. I returned to the neighborhood one last time, just to say goodbye to the woman who had warned me. Mrs. Halloway had been more honest with me than my husband had ever been. As I was walking toward her house, I heard the sound of a car door closing. Silver car. Expensive. Polished. And then I saw her. Blonde. Perfectly dressed. Smiling like she owned the world. She walked confidently toward the house I used to call home. My house. My life. My memories. She used the spare key hidden under the flower pot. The same spot I once used. My heart shattered all over again. She didn't just replace me. She stepped directly into my life. Into my routines. Into my home. I should have walked away. But I couldn't. I moved closer. Just enough to hear their voices through the slightly open window. "Did you give her the documents?" the woman asked. My husband laughed. "I didn't need documents. I just told her to leave. That was enough." She giggled. "You're terrible. You like it," he said playfully. Then he added something that made my knees weak. She never mattered. She was just convenient. Just convenient. 12 years. My loyalty. My sacrifices. Convenient. I felt the betrayal slice through me deeper than any wound I had ever felt. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to disappear. But instead, something inside me hardened. That moment, that sentence. She was just convenient. Became the turning point. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This wasn't sadness. This wasn't loss. This was motivation. Because he thought the story ended when he threw me out. But he forgot something important. I was his wife. Legally. And everything acquired during the marriage belonged to both of us. Even the inheritance. Even the house. Even the new car. He kicked me out thinking I would disappear quietly. But he didn't kick out a broken woman. He kicked out a woman who knew the truth now. And the truth was powerful. I left without making a sound. No confrontation. No drama. But as I walked away, I whispered to myself, "You just declared war. And you didn't even know it." Revenge wasn't something I planned overnight. It was built slowly, brick by brick, truth by truth, insult by insult. I didn't want to destroy him. I wanted justice. And justice, sometimes, is the most beautiful form of revenge. The first step came from the lawyer. When we met, he was more surprised than I was. "You're calmer than expected," he said. Calm. If only he knew the storm inside me. He laid out the facts. Legally, the inheritance was marital property. No clause said otherwise. That meant my husband couldn't just take everything and disappear. The court usually divides such assets fairly, he explained. Fairly? Yes. He nodded. 20 to 50%, depending on circumstances. A slow, dangerous smile appeared on my lips. He kicked me out with a suitcase in 20 minutes, and I could walk away with half of everything. But I didn't want half. I wanted him to feel what I felt, to lose something he thought he couldn't lose. So I listened carefully as the lawyer continued. "We will file for spousal support as well. Based on the lifestyle changes he made, the sudden wealth, and the emotional distress, things may work in your favor." My favor. For the first time in months, those words felt like sunlight. I spent the next weeks building everything I needed. Evidence of his cheating. Proof of his sudden lifestyle upgrades. Screenshots of his messages. Receipts from his expensive dinners. Witness statements from neighbors. Every piece, every detail, every truth became part of my plan. I didn't yell at him. I didn't confront him. I didn't expose him publicly. Well, I did something far more effective. I stayed silent. Silence scares people more than shouting ever could. He didn't even know what was happening until the court papers reached him. I imagined his face. The shock, the panic, the realization that the woman he threw out wasn't as powerless as he thought. He called me that evening. I didn't answer. He texted. I didn't reply. And the next morning, he showed up at the motel. His voice shook with anger. "What do you think you're doing?" I looked him straight in the eyes. "Protecting myself. You're trying to take my money." "Our money," I corrected calmly. His jaw tightened. "You don't deserve a cent." I raised an eyebrow. "Then why did you marry me?" He had no answer. For the first time ever, he looked scared. And that fear. It wasn't victory. It was justice. The court hearing lasted 4 hours. 4 long, heavy, exhausting hours. My husband walked in with confidence. Expensive suit, expensive watch, expensive smile. But confidence doesn't win cases. Truth does. His lawyer tried everything. Claimed I contributed nothing. Claimed the inheritance was intended solely for him. Claimed I was after his wealth. But my lawyer, calm and sharp, opened a folder full of evidence. Every photograph, every message, every receipt, every witness statement. Piece by piece, the facade my husband built began to crumble. And then came the turning point. My lawyer said. For 12 years she supported him through unemployment, illness, debt, and rebuilding. She worked 2 jobs while he worked none. She maintained the home, paid bills, and even supported his failed business attempts. Meanwhile, he spent marital funds on another woman. The room fell silent. My husband's face turned pale. Then the judge spoke. And his words felt like fresh air after drowning. She is entitled to 40% of the inheritance, the marital home, and temporary spousal support until she is financially independent. 40%. A house. Support. Everything he tried to take from me. Everything he tried to deny me. Returned. My husband slammed his hand on the table. This is a joke. The judge didn't even flinch. This is the law. When the gavel hit the wood, it wasn't just a legal decision. It was the moment my husband finally understood. He didn't break me. He freed me. Outside the courtroom, he ran after me. This isn't fair, he yelled. Turn slowly. What wasn't fair, I said softly, was throwing your wife out like trash. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The woman from the silver car wasn't with him. And suddenly he looked alone. Really alone. You ruined everything, he whispered. I stepped closer. No, I said gently. You ruined everything. The moment you said leave. He didn't chase me after that. He just stood there. Rich, angry, empty. And I walked away. Finally free. The house felt different when I walked back into it. Not because the walls had changed. Or the furniture. Or the memories. But because I had changed. I didn't enter as a victim. I entered as someone who had survived one of the darkest chapters of her life. The first room I stepped into was the kitchen. The same place he told me to leave. The same place my heart broke. But now, standing there alone, felt no pain, no sadness, no attachment, just peace. Over the next weeks I transformed the house. I repainted the walls. I threw away the objects that reminded me of him. I opened the windows every morning and filled the rooms with sunlight. I made it mine. Truly mine. Got a new job. Took classes. I rebuilt friendships I'd lost while trying to hold our marriage together. I started a small baking business from the kitchen he once told me I didn't belong in. And slowly, beautifully, life became warm again. People often ask me, would you take him back if he apologized? And I always smiled. Apologizing doesn't erase character. He never apologized anyway. But even if he did, had moved on. The woman in the silver car. She left him 3 months later when she realized the money wasn't endless. He tried contacting me again after that. I didn't reply. Some doors should never open twice. Betrayal is a strange teacher. It breaks you first. But then, if you let it, it rebuilds you into someone stronger. My husband's betrayal taught me that. Love isn't proven by words. It's proven by how someone treats you when they have everything to gain. Or everything to lose. Taught me that people don't change when they get rich. They reveal who they were all along. Taught me that walking away from someone who doesn't value you is not failure. It's freedom. And most importantly, you don't need someone to choose you when you can choose yourself. Today I live a simple, peaceful life. The scars remain, yes. But scars aren't signs of weakness. They're proof that you survived something that tried to break you. If you're listening to my story right now, and you're going through something similar, remember this. You deserve respect. You deserve loyalty. You deserve love that doesn't depend on money, circumstances, or convenience. And even if someone tries to make you feel useless, you are stronger than their words, stronger than their betrayal, stronger than the pain they left behind. Because sometimes the people who walk out of your life are doing nothing more than making room for the life you truly deserve.